Many centuries ago, a young maid named Clara meets Ralph, a wealthy socialite from a reputable family known as the Wilherns. In time, the couple falls in love, which ultimately leads to Clara conceiving a child. Sadly, the Wilherns disapprove of Clara due to her low economic status and forcefully pressure Ralph into marrying a bride from a more dignified background. Clara is heartbroken by the Wilherns' rejection and ends her life by committing the unthinkable. This act causes Clara's mother, who also happens to be the town's witch, to grow resentful of the Wilhern family, who really should have done a background check. One night, the old witch carries out her revenge by bewitching the elitist family with a generational hex. The bereaved mother curses the next daughter born of the Wilherns to have a face of a pig. However, the witch does add one loophole. The curse may be broken if someone from an elitist family grows to truly love the pig-faced daughter. For many years, the Wilherns had son after son after son, with no daughters to bear the curse. As generations pass, the curse grows into an urban legend, with the present-day Wilherns paying it no mind. However, their good luck eventually runs out as a young girl named Penelope is born into the family. True to the curse, Penelope has a hideous pig face that scares all who lay eyes upon her, including her own mother, Jessica. After her birth, news of Penelope's ominous face makes rounds around town, causing the press and the general public to go into a frenzy. To protect Penelope from the curious reporters, Jessica fakes her daughter's death and locks her away in their mansion, away from the public. Jessica also seeks medical help to fix her daughter's disfigured face. However, all her efforts prove abortive, as even the best doctors have trouble fixing her face. With no other way of changing her pig-like features, Jessica turns to the curse's loophole and tries to find Penelope a husband from a rich family who truly loves her. Once Penelope clocks 18, she's made to date many potential suitors, none of which are allowed to see her face at first. Sadly, for years, these setup dates never seem to work, as all the suitors race off and even dramatically overreact and jump through the windows when they finally get to see Penelope's face. To protect their daughter's privacy, the Wilherns' butler, Jake, would catch these runaway suitors and force them into signing a non-disclosure agreement. For a while, this tactic works pretty well. However, one afternoon, things changed as a wealthy suitor named Edward had successfully outrun the butler and reported the case at a nearby station. Edward describes Penelope's face to the police officers and asks that they investigate the pig-looking girl. Naturally, the officers find his description to be quite laughable, chalking it up to a figment of his imagination and instantly dismiss him. A local reporter gets word of Edward's story and publishes in the town's newspaper that the wealthy suitor has gone mad. The next day, Edward sees the publication and grows livid as he vows to expose Penelope's identity to the world and prove his claims. The wealthy suitor soon finds a partner to join his mission, a tabloid reporter named Lemon, who also believes his story. Together, the duo brainstorms ways to get proof and eventually decide on getting an undercover suitor to take the picture of Penelope. They hire the services of a young man named Max and install a hidden camera in his jacket. On their instruction, Max heads to Penelope's house and joins the other suitors who are waiting to meet her. Minutes later, the pig-faced girl enters the room, and just like clockwork, the men swiftly take to their heels. All except Max, who hadn't quite seen her face. Disheartened that her suitors had once again run at the sight of her, Penelope retires to her room and talks to Max through a one-sided mirror. The pig-faced girl finds Max to be particularly interesting and quite unlike the other men she's met. His unique personality makes her hopeful that he may finally be the one to break the curse. Though an imposter, Max also finds Penelope to be quite sweet and intelligent as the duo converses for quite a while. At the end of their conversation, Max leaves the house but promises to return the next day. The following afternoon, the undercover suitor returns, almost making Penelope squeal in delight. The duo discusses their ambitions and life goals, with Penelope revealing she'd like to be a horticulturist. The conversation soon shifts to her isolation indoors, and Max proposes they grab a beer together at a nearby bar. Penelope is fascinated by the offer, but her insecurities make her fearful of going out in public. So, she politely declines his invitation. The next day, Max returns and Penelope finally musters up the courage to reveal herself to him. She approaches him from behind, and an unsuspecting Max gets startled and backs away at the sight of her. Unlike the others, Max doesn't run, but he is taken aback by her hideous face. His reaction really hurts Penelope, prompting the pig-faced girl to sprint out of the room in shame. Feeling guilty about taking the undercover job, Max exits the house and calls off the deal with Lemon. Meanwhile, Jessica spots Max interacting with Lemon and instantly recognizes the reporter. Seeing this, she realizes Max is a spy and tries to stop him from re-entering the house. However, the undercover agent scales the fence and breaks into the building to speak with Penelope once more. Desperate to break the curse, Penelope explains the spell's loophole to him and begs Max to marry her. Not coming from an elitist family, Max realizes he can't break the curse and turns down Penelope's offer. The pig-faced girl is disappointed by his answer and orders him to leave as she breaks down in tears. That night, a devastated Penelope breaks out of the house and runs away from home. Using a scarf to cover half her face, Penelope enters the outside world and is fascinated by it. After adapting to her surroundings, the runaway daughter calls her parents via a payphone, informing them that she is all right. Her worried parents ask for her current location, but Penelope simply ignores them and checks into a nearby hotel with her mom's credit card. The following day, Jessica notices her credit card is missing and traces the transaction to Penelope's hotel. While heading to her room, Penelope spots her parents in the lobby and escapes via her room's window. Sadly, she leaves behind her mom's credit card in the process and is left with barely any cash. Having no place to turn to and with night fast approaching, the runaway daughter brainstorms ways to make a quick buck. Meanwhile, the investigative duo, Lemon and Edward, launch a public ad, offering a reward to anyone who can get pictures of the pig-faced girl. Penelope runs into the ad and, desperate for cash, decides to sell her pictures to get the reward. She heads on over to a photo booth and uses her last remaining pennies to take multiple photos, after which she calls Lemon to make the trade. Upon agreeing on a meeting spot and time, Penelope hands the pictures to Lemon in exchange for cash. After retrieving the photos, Lemon has a change of heart and is skeptical about revealing the young girl's identity to the world. Sadly, Edward isn't as empathetic and decides to go on with a plan to clear his name and prove his claims. The next morning, pictures of Penelope are plastered all over the city's newspapers and magazines, with the story spreading like wildfire. Later that day, an undercover Penelope goes into a bar and orders a drink. Inside, she meets a young woman named Annie, and the duo instantly get along. A curious Annie notices Penelope is hiding half her face and questions her new friend about it. In response, the pig-faced girl lies that she recently got a bad nose job and is hiding it until it fully heals. Annie finds her story quite strange, but doesn't think much of it. After the girls finish their drinks, Annie offers Penelope a ride on her bike. Together, the duo explore the city as Annie shows her around town. Weeks later, the runaway daughter adapts to her new life and is out getting groceries when she runs into her parents. Scared of losing her freedom, Penelope sprints at the sight of them with her parents in hot pursuit. She swiftly races down the street and makes some sharp turns right before entering a bar from earlier. Luckily, she meets Annie there, but passes out shortly after due to breathlessness. A concerned Annie pulls off her scarf to help her breathe, but in doing so, exposes her true identity. When Penelope regains consciousness, she finds herself in a hospital surrounded by fascinated reporters taking pictures for their respective publications. After she's discharged from the hospital, Penelope returns home to her parents and soon becomes a local sensation. The general public is intrigued by her story, causing her to be regarded as a well-liked celebrity. Upon discovering Penelope has amassed many fans, Edward is cajoled by his parents into marrying the pig-faced girl. Edward is initially repulsed by the idea, but eventually succumbs to his parents' demands and proposes to Penelope. On receiving his proposal, the newly turned celebrity immediately sees through his ploy and rejects his offer. Penelope's mom, Jessica, is horrified by her answer and reminds her pig-faced daughter that Edward has the ability to finally break the curse. Hearing this, she has a change of heart and reluctantly agrees to marry him in hopes of losing her pig-like features. News of their engagement spreads like wildfire, with Max getting word of the upcoming wedding. Aware that Edward doesn't truly love Penelope, Max decides to confront him and attends the couple's engagement party. Max secretly meets Edward in the restroom and threatens to expose his true intentions to Penelope if he doesn't call off the wedding. This threat doesn't faze Edward, as the young socialite cockily boasts that Penelope is too desperate to back down from the wedding. After their conversation, Edward returns to the party and reunites with his fiancée while Max helplessly looks on. Weeks later, the day of the wedding finally arrives. Penelope dresses up and joins Edward at the altar as the priest reads out the wedding vows. Not being able to bear the sight of her, Edward looks away from Penelope as he agrees to take her as his wife. Moments later, the priest also reads Penelope her vows and questions if she'd take Edward as her husband. At that moment, Penelope ultimately chooses not to settle for a husband who doesn't love her and rejects the vows right before running from the altar. Penelope sprints back into her locked room with her mom in hot pursuit. Jessica pleads with her daughter to return to the wedding as it is her one chance to finally break the curse. However, Penelope refuses and declares after many years of hating herself for being ugly, she's finally accepted and learned to love herself. As soon as she utters these words, Penelope falls to the ground, with Jessica rushing to her aid. Seeing her daughter's face, Jessica realizes the curse has been broken, as Penelope's pig-like features had fully vanished. Right then, we discover the twist in the tale, that the curse's loophole was never restricted to romantic love. Hence, anyone from an elitist family, including herself and her parents, could have broken the curse years ago. Sadly, the disdain for her looks had stopped her mom and dad from truly loving her. However, with her newfound self-love, she had finally broken the spell all by herself. Learning this, Penelope's parents feel regretful for not accepting their daughter despite her looks and profusely apologize for their actions. A forgiving Penelope accepts their apology as the family shares a warm embrace. That afternoon, the family's butler, Jake, resigns and exits the house premises. As he leaves, Jake transforms into a witch, thus revealing himself to be Clara's mother, and that after many generations, the Wilherns are still allergic to background checks. Weeks later, Penelope packs and moves out of her parents' house as she heads off to start a new life. News of the broken curse is kept under wraps to avoid drawing the public's attention and to allow her to live a normal life. Now without the pig-like face, Penelope walks around in public without stares and takes up a job as a horticulture teacher in an elementary school. About a month later, Halloween arrives and Penelope attends a costume party together with Annie. On her arrival, she feels the urge to pee and knocks on a nearby apartment to use their bathroom. When the apartment owner opens the door, Penelope is shocked to find Max staring at her. As she's wearing a mask, Max doesn't recognize her and innocently invites her in. After using the bathroom, Penelope converses with Max until he realizes it's her. Overwhelmed by his hidden emotions, Max kisses her despite having no prior knowledge about the broken curse. He apologizes to Penelope for turning down her proposal the first time and explains he only did that because he is not actually a wealthy guy named Max, just a regular guy named Johnny, and thus couldn't break the curse as he didn't come from an elitist family. Hearing this, Penelope realizes Johnny truly loves her and reveals her new face to him. Johnny marvels at her beauty and kisses her again as the couple passionately makes out. In the closing scene, Penelope and Johnny enjoy a day at the park, with Lemon secretly staring at them from a distance. The reporter moves to take a photo of the former pig-faced girl to break the news of the broken curse. However, seeing how happy the couple is, he decides against it and leaves them to enjoy their private life together. And that's a wrap for this movie recap. Thanks for watching.